A lunchtime flight on the 17th of January, arriving in Hong Kong 13 hours later, with a 1-hour stopover to change planes, and then an 8-hour flight to Sydney, arriving in the evening of Wednesday the 18th of January. I had booked in to stay at the Travelodge. The central position of this hotel gave me a chance to walk through a series of wonderful parks all the way down to the harbour. Entering the first park, I came to the Anzac Memorial, dedicated to the armed forces who gave their lives in the First World War. When one considers the distance and the conditions they faced on their long journey to the battlefields of Europe, one is unable to comprehend what their thoughts and fears must have been like all those years ago. The Amp Tower, at 1,000 feet, is the city's highest vantage point, and from the top you have a 360-degree view of Sydney and its surroundings. This park is Hyde Park, a fraction of the size of its London's namesake. St Mary's Cathedral can be seen through the water plumes of the Archibald Fountain. Skirting the edge of the Royal Botanic Gardens, passing the Art Gallery of New South Wales, I then made a detour along the Eurong precinct. My walk then took me past a marina and the Andrew Boy Charlton Pool, which is 25 metres long and filled with seawater. A few days later, I returned and took a dip in here myself. Very enjoyable. Continuing my walk, I next headed for the rocky outcrop that is called Mrs. Maguire's Point. From here, you can get good views of Sydney Harbour, the Opera House and the bridge. Not typical Australian summer weather for my first day in the country, but according to the TV, they had enjoyed this type of weather for 5 days. Although showery and dull, it was still very warm. And I found out how powerful the sun was because I got burnt on my arms and head, a lesson I learnt for the rest of my trip. An open-air cinema had been set up at this part of the harbour, showing films every evening. The Amp Tower that I walked past earlier can be seen from here also. The Botanic Gardens and a variety of birds and plants can be observed as we continue the walk along the harbour edge. You don't have to go very far before you see an ibis bird. They seem to be everywhere. This walkway is very popular with joggers out for their lunchtime exercise. Numerous ferries and boats ply the harbour area, and it must be an excellent way to get a different aspect of the views of Sydney. From this position, the viewer is confronted by one of Sydney's most delightful buildings, which is the Opera House. Covered in 1,000,000 white tiles, which on close inspection are turning a little off-white. The Opera House was originally budgeted at 7 million Australian dollars, but ended up costing 13 times that, the shortfall being funded by the Australian Lottery. The shell-like roof is 220 feet high at its highest point, and the orchestra pit is actually below sea level. The Opera House Theatre itself only seats 1,547, which is fairly small. The main concert hall seats 2,697. The Opera House is built on the east side of Circular Quay, where the ferries to the surrounding districts berth. Walking down the east side of the quay, one finds numerous cafes and restaurants. At the far end are the various ferry berths, where you can catch ferries to the surrounding areas, for example Manly, which is a popular area for the beaches. The west side of the quay also hosts a number of restaurants, and it also gives one a chance to gain a closer look at Sydney Harbour Bridge, which offers the brave a chance to walk across the top. Completed in 1932, this bridge was the image of Sydney before the Opera House was opened in 1973. The old dock warehouses have now been converted into trendy apartments and houses. This warehouse has been converted for use as an art gallery. The whole area has the background of the high-rise tower blocks, housing a variety of international companies. A look across the quay towards the Opera House, and we hope for more summery weather in the coming days.